It is 9 o'clock right on the dot, ladies and gentlemen, and this morning I am joined by Mr. Ahmed Bining, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the Pan-African Youth Union, and we'll be talking about the Pan-African Union celebration that's going to be taking place today, guys, in the evening. So good morning, Mr. Ahmed.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Excellent. So, Mr. Ahmed, I just wanted you to tell me a little bit about the history of the Pan-African Youth Union, and also tell me, how did it all start?
Well, thank you very much. Let me say a very good morning to your listeners and to all young people in the Republic of Sudan. It's exciting to be in Sudan and to be engaging you this morning. I don't know if you are aware, but the headquarters of the Pan-African Youth Union is right here in Khartoum.
Wow. And I bet a lot of people didn't know that, by the way.
Sure. And it's been here since 2011.
Okay.
And before then, the Pan-African Youth Union was hosted in Algeria.
Wow.
The Pan-African Youth Union is the continental youth coordinating institution that rallies around national youth councils, youth agencies across the 55 countries. It was founded in 1962 by a decision of African heads of states in Guinea-Conakry. And since then, it's been a rallying ground for young people. In fact, it was founded as the Pan-African Youth Movement.
Wow.
And because at the time, the African heads of state felt that we needed a system that rallied the young people for the anti-colonial struggle. So it became that kind of conduit that rallied the young people to fight for independence in African states. Over the years, most African countries got independent, so there was a need for the organization to restructure and reform to fit the new African context. And so in that reformation or transformation, it became the Pan-African Youth Union. It moved to Maputo, and then in 2011 there was an MOU that was signed with the government of Sudan to host the headquarters, and it's been here since then. And I must say that we've had a lot of support from the Sudanese people and from the government of Sudan in terms of the environment that they create for us to have the headquarters, which is an excellent thing to do. Because young people, as we know, have become the pivot for Africa's socio-economic progress. And if we have a continent that's got 63% of the entire population being young people, certainly they are supposed to be the driving force for socio-economic progress. More so when we are saying that we want to build a continent that is self-sufficient and more progressive, open, and inclusive. I think that it's only important that we have an institution that rallies these young energies together. I remember last year the AU launched a team that has to do with harnessing the demographic dividends as a continent. And of course, a team like that brings young people immediately to mind. And if you look at all other continents, their economic revolution and transformation have been anchored on the fact that the young people have led that process.
Exactly.
And as a young leader with the Pan-African Youth Union, I think that the focus is to rally young people together, let them be able to optimize their potential, and let them be able to get involved in the social, economic, and governance processes of their respective countries, so we can make Africa great and strong.
Excellent. And now, tell me, Mr. Ahmed, about the celebrations. There has been celebrations every year in each and every country. So can you tell me a little bit about the previous celebrations? Where did it take place? And also, this year you've chosen Sudan, or Khartoum to be specific, to have the celebration of the Pan-African Youth Union here. So can you tell me the reasons behind that and also the previous celebrations?
Okay, so let me try to clarify. The celebration is the International Youth Day.
Okay.
And the International Youth Day is a UN-accepted day, or
Exactly.
a day that's earmarked by the United Nations for young people to be able to engage, share experiences and knowledge on issues that fundamentally affect the progress and development of youth across the world. The celebration is not limited to one kind of activity or event. For each country, each youth group, they decide what kind of activity that they want to use to mark and celebrate. However, there's always a general theme that is launched by the United Nations. And this year, the theme, last year we tackled mental health.
Wow.
This year, it's safe spaces for youth. And for me, safe spaces for youth is actually crucial. It's an embodiment of all the challenges that young people face. Because if we take young people that are into IT, young people that are entrepreneurs, young people that are health professionals, lawyers, young people that are unemployed, young people that live with HIV and AIDS, young people that come from marginalized societies, or young people or minority societies, or the diversity or cross range of young people, you realize that for each of these categories of young people, they need some space that allow them to be able to engage themselves, engage stakeholders, and actually be able to optimize their potential.
Yeah.
And I think that this team is very crucial, especially for African youth within the context of the AU Agenda 2063. I think that young people need to be integrated, young people need to be involved, and young people need to be seen as strategic partners in the socio-economic progress of the continent. So that's what makes the team very, very important for us. About Sudan, Khartoum, I think if you recall, a week ago there was this peace deal that was signed between the warring parties in South Sudan. That was a landmark activity. And if we are talking about safe spaces, certainly you cannot be talking of safe spaces for young people when there's political conflict or when there's a war. Considering that the headquarters is equally here, we felt that it was strategic for us to have the celebration here, to be able to engage young people. And like, if you know, the youth leadership of South Sudan have been invited to participate because we want young people to lead the challenge in consolidating that peace deal and consolidating the peace in South Sudan. So in their bid to consolidate the peace there, they are actually creating safer spaces for the young people of South Sudan to optimize their potential. And we are looking beyond just that. I mean, we have so many other countries in and around Sudan and on the African continent that equally have very disturbing political situations, and we want to be able to use the South Sudanese example of being able to agree to send a message out there. Beyond that, I think that we want to use the International Youth Day, especially the team, to re-echo the need for policymakers, governments, and all stakeholders to first engage young people in every respect of activities that they are involved in, and get the opinions and then the voices of young people, and then get them involved in all these processes. So for us, this year's team makes it very crucial and very important for us to actually have a much broader activity, and that's why we're having the International Symposium right here in Khartoum. And that symposium is supposed to allow us to have meaningful engagements amongst ourselves as young people, and then with leadership, and then other professional institutions and decision makers on how do we collectively create safe spaces that do not exist, and for those that exist, how do we make them better?
Exactly.
And I think that that's very important for us as an institution. So this year's activity, it's unique in a sense. Unique because we are celebrating the International Youth Day within the context of a theme that affects the everyday life of young people, and we think that young people should be allowed to express their views on what their expectations are. And then I've always emphasized there's a need for us to have meaningful engagement. We don't just engage, but we want to engage with an objective of getting concrete outcomes.
Excellent. So what we're going to do, Mr. Ahmed, is take a very, very short break. If you have any questions, guys, all you have to do is send me a comment on our Facebook page /91.6 FM regarding the Pan-African Youth Union that is celebrating the Youth Day today. At the location is Ma'moon Bahari. Ma'moon Bahari. Yes. And it's going to start around 7 o'clock. So all you have to do, guys, is send us all your questions. And also, if you want to tweet us, is always available at Capital 916 FM. And don't forget to hashtag PepsiCB916. I'll be back with more on the African Youth Union, Pan-African Youth Union, and also more on the celebrations that are taking place today.
When you come back, before you come back, you should teach me a couple of
Arabic words. Yes, I will do that, Mr. Ahmed. And what we're going to be listening to is a bit of Burna Boy with Ye. One of his latest tracks, guys. I've always been bragging about it. Keep it locked and enjoy the track, and we'll be right back right after the ad.
Your favorite.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. It is 17 minutes past 9 o'clock early in the morning. You're listening to Pepsi Capital Breakfast only on 91.6 FM, brought to you by the one and only Pepsi. And I'm joined this morning by Mr. Ahmed Binning, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the Pan-African Youth Union. And we are talking about the Pan-African Youth Union celebration that's taking place today in celebration of the Youth Day. So Mr. Ahmed's going to tell us a little bit about the activities that are going to be actually taking place today, this evening at Ma'moon Bahari, guys. Ma'moon Bahari on Mohammed Najib Street. So, Mr. Ahmed, can you tell me a little bit about the activities that are taking place today, and also some of the countries that are going to be participating today? So we are going to be celebrating something that's, I think it's an amazing opportunity for everybody to kind of see different people from different countries from the same continent who are facing similar maybe obstacles or challenges, and kind of have that sharing of ideas and how did they overcome their challenges. So starting off with the activities today.
Yeah, so yesterday you missed, but your colleague Fatima was with us, and it was exciting. We started in the morning by engaging with the Parliament of Sudan. Mm-hmm. We had an opportunity of engaging the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, and I think that is important for us as young people, that for each country, our first point of call is not really the executive, but it's the Parliament, because the laws that are made within these parliaments determine what kind of access and open society that we have for us to be able to engage further. So if they make very bad laws, and then they make very horrible and then excluding laws, then we get affected. And I think that we had a very interesting engagement with the Deputy Speaker of the Sudanese Parliament. And of course, in the conversation, we were able to express what our expectations were as young people in getting the Parliament to be able to have rules that were open and protected or defended the rights of youths and women. And I think the engagement was good. That was the first engagement. We had a second round table where we had a cross section of Sudanese youth journalists and other professionals engaging around the team. And that engagement was very important, because then you didn't need to have ministers and then presidential assistants and aides. It was an all youth encounter. So we had an open mind, and then we engaged extensively on what kind of spaces that we required as young people, what were the spaces that were existent and which ones were not existent. We went further to even evaluate our own position as young people and how we are supposed to contribute to the socio-economic development of our respective countries. I think that engagement was super exciting. Excellent. You should have been there.
I know, I missed it because I was working 24/7.
And today is going to be another one we are actually going to have a panel discussion, and
Excellent.
it's an international symposium, and we're going to be having other young people coming in from outside. We are going to have the National Youth Council chairperson and presidential advisor to
Wow.
the president of Uganda joining us on the panel. We are expecting to have the Secretary General for the ANC Youth League joining
Excellent.
us from South Africa, and then we have the chairperson for the SPLM Youth League in South Sudan joining
Excellent.
us in the conversation, and it's going to be super exciting. And then we're going to have somebody from the government point telling us, specifically from the Ministry of Communication.
Excellent.
And it is very important for us, because as young people, innovation and ICT and communication is crucial in our everyday
Definitely.
life, and we need to get that engagement or that discussion going, so that for those of us that are addicted to Facebook, Twitter,
And Twitter,
social
exactly.
media, and Instagram, we're able to use these social media handles responsibly and productively. I know a lot of young people are making money out of Facebook, YouTube, and so on and so
yes.
forth. But so many of us just get so excited using Facebook and YouTube and our Twitter just to, I don't know, for fun purposes without the economic aspect of it. So we want to have that engagement today. And so today it's going to start with us engaging the various youth stakeholders like NIFC. If you know, that's the National Federation of Sudanese Youth, and is the largest youth organization here, and it's the rallying institution. So we've been going to be engaging them this morning. We're going to be engaging the GSSU, that's the General Sudanese Students Union, and as you know, it's the largest student organization that we have, and it's been very present on the continent. So we'll be engaging them, we'll be having conversations, and the real essence of us having these engagements and conversations with these various institutions is for us to build consensus around what is it that we want as young people, especially in respect of creating safe spaces. And the celebration is happening across Africa.
Exactly.
So we are just having the climax in Khartoum. So you have the celebration going on in Congo. Yesterday, the Ugandans had an exciting engagement with the president of Uganda.
Wow.
We have the engagement taking place in South Africa. In Kenya, the UN itself had an interesting engagement. There was an engagement also at the British Council where young people engage. So it's been extensive. And we are just having the climax right here in Sudan, and I think that has been exciting, and I'm happy to actually be engaging the youth of Sudan and having that diversity, people coming from outside to help us identify and then have that, like I've always said, meaningful engagement amongst ourselves and then with stakeholders.
So and now I just wanted to ask you, Mr. Ahmed, I already asked you about this earlier off air, but what's really interesting is that a lot of people just say that maybe not only the youth now, we're focusing on more than just the youth, is that we are a generation of complainers, or we are professional complainers. And what's really interesting is that your concept or your idea of that actually made me realize that yes, we do complain, but there is always something good that can come out of it. So what is your stake on that being said, that we are complainers and we're not more into actively changing life or our life? We're not actively taking responsibility of our lives. So complaining is basically seen as a negative thing.
You know, I had an opportunity of attending the Commonwealth Heads of Governments meeting, and then the current Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Patricia Scotland, she made quite an interesting statement, and then she says, young people, she's asking us to misbehave. And I got like, okay, how do you tell her? And she says, yes, the perception out there is that young people misbehave. Yes, let us get out there, misbehave positively.
Yeah.
If you understand, we are not supposed to be generally conformist as young people. We are people that are adventurous and innovative and want to change the status quo and want to explore and get things going. The older generation, they are more conservative.
Yes,
and so
true.
they think that things should be done in a particular way.
Yeah.
And so when you are even doing something positive that is not in tandem with something that happened 60 years ago, you're like, oh, you are wayward.
Yeah.
This is the 21st century. We need to misbehave positively. And so that is the point. So as young people, I don't think that it is out of place to complain. And I keep telling young people, if you think that there's something that's not going well in your society, complain. In fact, shout, get into the air. However, in complaining, you must be in a position to propose solutions and be willing to be a part of that solution. If you just complain and lie on the couch and lie there and complain, no, it's like you are hungry, there's food in the kitchen, and then you lie on the couch and then you complain, I'm hungry, why is there no food in this house? When you could equally just wake up and walk into the kitchen and serve yourself or put something on fire.
Yeah, true.
Now, so that sense of responsibility of even knowing that, look, yes, I'm hungry, but to get satisfied, I need to wake up from the couch and walk to the kitchen. That's how the society operates. If young people complain that, oh, the system is not working, we don't have jobs, we are not included in the process, the first question I ask every day is, what are you doing as a young person to ensure that you are included in the process? What are you doing as a young person to ensure that you change the status quo? We are 63% on the continent.
Yes.
And for each of our countries, the majority of the population are young people.
Exactly. How
How do we participate, or how do we get involved in terms of our civic participation? So if the Sudanese youth decide that, oh, we need to change the status quo, we need to get things going, and they begin to mobilize themselves into legal entities and legal groups, and then groups that conform with the rules and regulations. You see, that is the point. It's one thing making your voice heard. It's another thing doing it through legal processes.
Exactly, true.
And I've always said that when you are a young person, you need to operate within the ambits of the law. If you think that the law is suppressing and the laws do not allow you to express your views, or you think that citizen voices are not tolerated, what are you doing as citizens to ensure that those rules are amended? I think that for all countries that are open and tolerate citizen voices and tolerate dissenting voices, they didn't just get it on a silver platter.
Exactly.
They advocated. And I am confident that if young people begin to adopt intellectual and activate their civic participation, the parliaments of our respective countries would listen to us.
Yeah, true.
And whilst we say this, I'm one of the fiercest critics of our governments in terms of the opportunities that they need to create for young people. And I've always said, our presidents and our government should stop moving cash out of our countries to buy houses in Dubai and Malaysia and so on and so forth, and reinvest that in our respective countries. Can you imagine that if our politicians and those that led our governments, even if they decided to plow back the monies that we supposedly say they steal from our system, just replow back into our economies, the amount of jobs that will be created. But what do we see? These monies are taken out of our jurisdiction into Dubai, into London, Paris, Switzerland, and so on and so forth. And the next minute, when you have accumulated a lot of money out there, and then they want the other European or Asian countries want to take the money out away, they trump up charges against you, and they say, oh, you are corrupt, blah, 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 blah. Before you realize, they take that money and then they start pressing charges against you. So you come back home with nothing. And so I've always said that our politicians and those that lead our societies must progressively understand that our communities are safer and our communities are better off if we can collectively plow back all the investment and resources that we have, either than stealing these resources through corrupt means and then taking it out. So as young people, we have an obligation toward fighting corruption. We have an obligation toward ensuring that the systems are more accountable. We have an obligation to ensuring that we suggest solutions and be a part of the solutions that we need for our respective countries. Whereas we say this, I think that all governments, including the government of Sudan, must be more tolerant of dissenting voice, and they must listen to citizen voices. They must listen to the opinions of young people, women, children, and the cross-section of society. And I think that is the only way we can build formidable, stable societies that benefit the entirety of our citizens.
Exactly. And also it will benefit the whole continent because, as you mentioned, that the continent is building up, and the amount of youth, or the percentage of youth among the population of the continent, is 63%. So if you think about it, which is something that you mentioned off air, that all the youth of the African continent, if they wanted or if they decided to come together and unite over something, they will be able to achieve it. And I think this is one thing that they miss out on, is that whatever we're going through here in Sudan is also something that other people are going through in other African countries. But once we understand that we are a one unit, we are part of a continent, we are part of this unit, then they will understand that we could work towards the future. So what we're going to take, Mr. Ahmed, is another short break. Guys, if you have any questions, all you have to do is send us a comment, facebook.com/91.6 FM. And if you want to tweet us at Capital916FM, hashtag PepsiCB916. I'll be teaching Mr. Ahmed a couple of Arabic words, but don't worry, I'm going to do my best. For now, let's listen out to a bit of Malik Berry.
Soon I'll be a professor in Arabic.
Definitely, Mr. Ahmed. Give me life, Malik Berry.
Your favorite morning show, Pepsi Capital Breakfast, keeping you updated, entertained, and playing your favorite tunes.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pepsi Capital Breakfast on your 91.6 FM. It is 20 to 10 o'clock. So we don't have any technical difficulties, but we were just waiting for someone to just hold the camera. We're going live on Mr. Ahmed's Facebook page. I was just checking it out right now. So yes, you can check it out as well. Mr. Ahmed, I want you, as the last bit of the interview, I want you to tell me a little bit about the future of the African youth as a unit, as one. Where do you see our future in the next 5 years?
I see us taking over.
Excellent.
And not just taking over Sudan. I see us taking over the 55 countries. I see us taking over the productive resources of Africa. And that is what our governments need to do. They need to include us and get us involved in harnessing the productive resources of our respective countries. Because we cannot build sustainable and progressive societies when the young people are left out of the economic processes. And so I see an informed youth that are willing to take their rightful place economically, politically, and socially.
Yeah.
And with, I mean, if you follow the trends, young people have become very vocal and very present on social media and being very critical about the governance processes and systems in our respective countries.
Exactly.
That is positive. Beyond being very rife on social media and in terms of our political activism, let us get involved in the economic processes. Let us get into agric for those of us that come from countries where agric is doing very well. Let us get involved in agribusiness.
Exactly.
And that is what we are doing. Let us get innovative. Let us get involved in IT and in developing IT systems. Because look, the more entrepreneurial we are as young people, and the more we get empowered economically, that is the only way we can take over the continent. But I am confident that the African youth are getting much more conscious politically and economically. And we are working extremely hard to do that. And from my point as a youth leader, we are going to ensure that we advocate and push for more opportunities for young people. We are going to ensure that we lead that kind of youth revolution. And when we say we are leading a youth revolution, our government gets shaky.
Scared,
They get so scared, like, oh, is there going to be another Arab Spring? No, we are leading a revolution that is going to transform societies, change minds, and allow us to engage with leadership, and allow us to have our seats on the tables of decision making.
Exactly.
And we require that. We think that we can only build more stable societies if young people can sit with
definitely
on the table
yes.
of decision making, and we are looking beyond just being employed and being asked to do things to being an integral part of the decision making process. If you realize, a lot more young people are pushing for intergenerational dialogue. We are not saying we are kicking out the older generation. There's a lot to learn from them.
Definitely.
But there's a lot for the older generation to learn from us. From 20 years ago, there was no Facebook, there was no Twitter, there was no Instagram. And today, somebody sits in Sudan. Today, somebody sits in Sudan, and the fellow is virtually knows everything that happens in the United States, knows everything that happens in London and France and Paris. Somebody's in Sudan and in terms of innovation, understands whatever is taking place, the changing trends. I think that is what's taking the African youth very far. And I'm confident that in the next 5 years, we are taking over positively. And we are stopping all the wars on the continent. And we are just not going to allow the Chinese and the Indians and Americans and Europeans to be in charge of the economy. We are going to partner with them. We are going to be involved in harnessing our productive resources. And we are going to change the governance system of the continent.
Another question as well, Mr. Ahmed. Mr. Ahmed Binning, if you've not had the interview, guys, he is the Deputy Secretary General of the Pan-African Youth Union, and he is here in celebration of the 13th of August, which is the Youth Day. So, Mr. Ahmed, another question. Where do you see Africa as a continent being in the next, let's say, 5 years as well? Because it's kind of like a two sides of the same coin. Not only the youth, we need to see their future, but also we need to see the future of the continent, because this is our responsibility.
If you realize, some 10 years ago, even international media used to describe Africa as a dark continent, that backward continent. Today, they are beginning to describe Africa in different words.
Yes.
Say, oh, it's the emerging powerhouse.
Exactly.
It's the next economic powerhouse, and so on and so forth. And if you look at countries like Nigeria, if you look at South Africa, Ethiopia, there's been that radical and progressive economic transformation that is taking place. I'm confident that, and that's why I say it's not as if Africa is static. We are making some progress, but we need rapid progress. And that rapid progress can only come when young people are properly integrated. If you look at the number of young entrepreneurs that we have today on the African continent, and you look 10 years back, we've made significant progress. And definitely. I think that the continent is moving forward in the right direction. We are just not excited about the pace at which we are moving, because we think that we have all that it takes to do that. So if you have a continent where Congo is very stable, and then African countries are not conniving with Europeans and Americans to destabilize Congo. Nigeria is very stable. Young people are not involved in militant extremism to destabilize Nigeria. Sudan is very stable, and then we are able to work our way out of the sanctions that we are currently having. You have a Central African Republic that's able to work its way out of the political instability and the religious and ethnic conflicts. Somalia is able to get stability. Northern Mali is able to get stability. Libya is stable. I think that these are the last serious albatross that we have hanging around our necks. If we are able to eliminate this through a united, concerted effort by governments and young people, And then the African Union, I think that's why I have always been pro us reforming the African Union. The African Union is doing quite well, but I think that we need a more radical and robust. We don't need an African Union that depends on the EU or on China. We need an African Union that is able to understand that, look, as an association of states and led by our presidents with the kinds of natural resources that we have, we should be able to sustain ourselves. And that's why I have a lot of admiration for the president of Rwanda that says that, look, we're a continent where we have everything. And even what we have, we don't know we have it. We still go begging for what we have from outside. We cannot develop a continent like that. We can only develop a continent when we are conscious. And it has to do with changing our mindsets.
Definitely.
Understanding that the future of Africa is not in young people dying in the sea. The future of Africa is not young people running away. And in fact, young people run to Europe and to America and they find themselves in worse conditions. I had an opportunity of being in London recently, and I met some young people from Africa, and they practically were sleeping on the streets.
Definitely, yeah. But there was...
And you cannot tell me that you have progressed or you have moved or you have a better welfare when you are sleeping on the streets of London, when you have free food in Africa.
Exactly.
And so I see Africa making a lot of progress, but then I think that we also need to join hands to change mindsets, to understand that Africa is not static. We are making some progress and we need all hands on board. However, those that currently sit on positions of power must recognize that they have a bigger responsibility, a responsibility of working for the citizens and not working for themselves, a responsibility of ensuring that we all move together, not getting themselves fat and getting their children and families out. We need to eliminate corruption. We need to have systems that tolerate the views of citizens. And so if we have a government in Sudan, the government of Sudan should listen to young people, listen to citizens, and accommodate their views, factor their views and aspirations into the broader objective. It cannot be that when you lead a country, you what you think or you are the repository of knowledge. Your power and the way you run the country must be derived from the aspirations of people. And I think that Africa can only progress if we harness our demographic dividends. Finally, if you look at Europe developed at the time that young people were majority, and they used that to develop. If you look at America, they did the same thing. Latin America, we're still having a debate as to whether they were able to harness that. It is time for Africa. We cannot allow that to go, because if you have about 70% of your workforce being energetic, being talented, educated, and then you have all the natural resources. I don't think that there's any continent on this planet that's got more resources than Africa. And then, in addition to these natural resources, you have the human capital.
Exactly.
It means that if we allow this to pass by, it would be the biggest injustice that we do to ourselves as Africans. And I'm confident that in the next 5-10 years, Africa will be receiving migrants from Europe and America instead of young people dying in the sea. But we need to work together.
Definitely. Mr. Ahmed Binning, the Deputy Secretary General of the Pan-African Youth Union, thank you so much for joining me this morning. It's been a pleasure having a chat with you. It's been actually a very insightful interview. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for giving us your time.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to seeing you at the symposium.
Definitely.
And for all the organizations, we try to reach out to as many organizations, the UN system, the ministries, and all the international organizations, the embassies and missions, to join us to have this discussion, because each of them have got a role in ensuring that we create safe spaces for young people. So we look forward to receiving them.
Definitely. It's at Ma'moon Bahari, guys, on Shara Muhammad Najib, and it's going to be starting today at 7 o'clock in the evening. So don't forget to be part of it, and also just show your support and see what's this youth gathering has to say, or has has an input in the society as well. So if you are young and you're thinking, you know what, why not? Just show your support and be there, and you might have a mind change. You might have, I just think, an insightful meeting, an insightful gathering. So good luck to you, Mr. Ahmed.
Thank you. And for the young people of Sudan, the headquarters of the PYU is at Al Salam Street in Al Taif.
Oh,
And
just
so,
around the corner.
yeah, so I mean, it's a huge edifice that we have there. I mean, they can always walk in there. There are conference facilities there. They can always have discussions, and then we can
Excellent.
always engage around how we want to develop. And we are creating quite a number of opportunities for young people to build their capacity in various universities across the continent.
Excellent.
And network with the young people and learn, share experiences. And yeah, we look forward to welcoming the young people of Sudan and the international students and you that work here to visit anytime.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank
Ahmed,
you very
again.
much.
And guys, I'm going to leave you with yet another break, and I'll be right back, so don't go anywhere. And keep it locked to Capital Breakfast 91.6 FM. It's 91.6 FM. It's 91.6 FM. It's 91.6